welcome back to Afternoon Live. Our next guest says that no impact is too small, and making just a few simple changes in your own backyard can help fight climate change and enrich the environment. We welcome conservation educator and author of Grass Isn't Greener, Danae Wolfe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, cool. Okay, so tell me about why you wanted to put this book together. It seems like it can help people really individually on a micro level.
It does. And the reason why I wrote this book is I like to tell people that I wrote the book I wish I had 15 years ago when I bought my first home. And I knew that I wanted to do something to help the planet, but I kind of felt this sense of paralysis. It feels like a really big endeavor. And I think it's sort of grounded by this question, too, of I'm an individual. Can I really have an impact? And the answer is yes, absolutely. You know, there's over 40 million acres of turf grass here in the US. It's the largest irrigated crop in the country. And a huge portion of that is in our yards. So if we start to flip the narrative and do things a little bit differently, we can absolutely have a huge impact for the planet and for wildlife and ourselves too.
Yeah, tell us more about the environmental costs of all of our traditional lawns and the landscaping that goes into it.
Yeah, well, we have leaf blowing, we have lawn mowing, we have fertilization, we have pesticide use, we have irrigation, all of which contributes to increased carbon emissions. It contributes to decreased habitat availability for insects and other wildlife. And in addition to that, you think about the lawn mowing and the leaf blowing, not only are there emissions, but there's also the noise pollution that comes with sort of this disruption of these, quiet neighborhood afternoons. And then you hear that symphony of, mowing and blowing in the background. That disrupts wildlife as well. It disrupts birds and breeding and just a number of different things. So there's really an environmental cost, but I think we also pay the cost in just disrupted communities.
So why are those traditional lawns so important to us culturally? I think a lot of us can understand the cost, right? But we think about curb appeal and it looks pretty and I want a place for my family to play. How do we balance all those things?
Yeah, so I actually have a whole chapter in the book called Forge Community Unity, and it's about creating that balance. So I think a lot of people, when they hear, hey, plant for wildlife, they immediately think of like having a prairie garden in your front yard. And if you can accommodate that, that's great. That's a really wonderful way to support pollinators and other wildlife, but you don't have to go all in like that. There's ways that you can just start to kind of selectively pull native plants back into your landscape. You can create nice, neat borders. You can even have conversations with your neighbors about why you're doing this. If you're participating this month in movements like No Mow May, maybe you don't have to go all in on No Mow May. Maybe you can simply just reduce your mowing frequency, and that will help support just a number of different species out there. So we're very, very attached to turf grass lawns. It is sort of this marker of like the American dream and, community success. But I think we need to start to redefine what beauty looks like, and we can start to invite really diversity and biodiversity back into our communities.
Yeah, are there some easy swaps you've seen people make to get more native plants into their area? Obviously, it depends on the region, but I imagine there's some things that work pretty well in different areas.
Yeah, there's some easy swaps. I'll tell you one, and I live in Ohio, so I'm in a bit of a different geography, but we had boxwood plantings, very, very common planting in front of houses, sort of that foundation planting. We swapped that for Itea, which is this beautiful pollinator plant. It's a little bit more sweeping and a little bit more chaotic in its growth, but it supports so many different pollinators, especially this time of year when it's coming into bloom. So again, you don't have to go all in. You don't have to like rip out all of your turf grass overnight, but just think about some of those easy swaps that you can make, and then over time you can start to incorporate more and more. You can very easily find plant lists out there for your geography based on your eco region, from a number of different resources, from Pollinator Pathway to Xerces to National Wildlife Federation, and those will really kind of be your guidebook for what you should be planting, and how to really kickstart this effort in your home landscape.
That is such a great idea. Are there other kind of teeny tiny baby steps people can take? Because I see those photos and I think that looks amazing, maybe overwhelming to go from 0 to 60. What are some other things you could begin with?
Yeah, so you can begin with thinking about what you can stop doing. I think that's one of the easiest things. So I mentioned things like reducing your mowing frequency, going from maybe once a week or twice a week to maybe once every 2 weeks if you can accommodate that. Reducing light pollution is great, especially for nocturnal insects, could be moths, and even other wildlife. Birds are attracted into cities from light pollution, and especially this time of year when a lot of our migrating species are returning to their northern breeding grounds from where they spent their winters in the south. That light pollution in our environment really invites birds into these communities, suburban and urban areas, and they're going to be at increased risk of mortality from window strikes. So literally just turning off any unnecessary lights outdoors is a great first step. You can also think about things like leaving your leaves. This fall, when the leaves start to come off the trees, don't immediately go out there and start cleaning them up. Instead, think about where you can leave them. And if you can't leave them because you're in an area like an HOA that demands that you have a tidier landscape, then maybe just rake them into a less conspicuous area of your landscape where they can stay there and overwinter.
That's a great, easy first step to take. What about maybe instead of thinking about rewilding your entire landscaping, maybe going one patch at a time and starting there?
That's exactly what we've done in our home landscape. So historically, I've been a very all or nothing type person. And when we moved into our current home, I was like, I want radical change overnight. We live on about a half an acre, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're transforming your a half an acre of landscape into like well curated native gardens, it's a lot more than you would think. It gets expensive, it's time consuming, it's labor intensive. So yes, patch by patch. We started literally with a bed that was about 10 by 10, and we went out and bought 10 pollinator plants and installed those. And then every year we've done more and more. The last 2 summers, I think we've installed somewhere around 600 native pollinator plants, some trees, some shrubs, and other things too. But you can start small, and every bit helps, especially for that one bee or that one butterfly or one moth that relies on that plant species for its survival.
Well, that does speak to what a great impact just one home, one property can have if you go patch by patch, and then you've got your entire landscape that reflects this now. And what a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, Danae's book again is Grass Isn't Greener, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com.